Good evening. Welcome to the latest edition of Storm Report Live. I'm one of your co-hosts, Chris Sipperly. I'm joined by Adam Samrob, the other co-host, and we are also joined by Chad Gordon. With that, Adam, I'll pass it right off to you because let's get right into it.
All right, we kind of have a special storm report tonight. We are talking about this next Tuesday, March 5th, Article C in the Bennington School vote is about the Spinelli Field complex project. And we're here with Mount Anthony football head coach Chad Gordon, who's kind of been spearheading the information about this project to get it out to the voters. I guess the first thing I want to talk about is this is the second time that this project has come up. Talk a little bit about the first time and what happened and why you believe that maybe it wasn't the right time for it at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, guys. I appreciate being on here tonight. So I'm actually the chair of the Spinelli Complex ad hoc committee. It was a committee formed 4 years ago by the Mount Anthony School Board. And that was to explore, there was a lot of issues with the field, the track, and the lights, and there was to explore upgrades and possible upgrades. So as a committee, we did a lot of research. This is like starting 2020, just prior to the kickoff of COVID. COVID came and kind of slowed it down, but we did some research. And we found, we looked at grass, we looked at turf, we looked at different types of materials and whatnot. The board had authorized the feasibility study that was done by engineering firm MSK. After we reviewed that, we looked at what we thought was the most cost-effective and financially responsible project of updating the turf to artificial turf, the track, updating the new lights to new energy-efficient lights. There was also going to be a multi-purpose shed storage facility that was also going to be a ticket booth, and it was going to have a new press box, bathrooms, and that was that whole scope of the project that went out to vote in November of 2021. It was a $3.5 million up to $3.5 million bond. Unfortunately, that did not pass then, and we went back to the drawing board. We took some time off, but we came back, and we came back as a committee. And that's actually when I came on as the chair. I was the vice chair at the time. Mike Malloy was the original chair. And when I came back on as the chair, we said, does the community really want this? What was the reason for the vote? We had gotten a lot of feedback about that shed being an extra. And we did a survey. You might remember a survey that went out to the public, and we got a lot of data. And overwhelmingly, the data we received back, we'd ask questions individually about, does Spinelli Field need to be upgraded? And overwhelmingly, the results said yes. Would people like to see the upgrade still be at artificial turf? Again, 75% overwhelmingly said it should be. We asked about the track, Zimianic track needed to be upgraded. People said yes. So again, overwhelmingly, the community said yes. So we've then said, let's narrow this project down to just the priorities. And as a committee, we came to the priorities of being, again, just the lights, just the track and the field. And now, as we're voting next Tuesday, March 5th, on the MAU ballot, Article C, is a bond up to $3 million. I don't know if that answered your first question or not, but a little long, but that's where we're at now, the vote for next week.
Well, it's a good way to look at the history of it, because it's something that it's not something that's been, just thrown together quickly, right, or one specific person had an idea. This has been going on for the better part of 4 years. And you guys have done research
a lot. And, I tried to go into it with a clean slate, as a football coach, as a football purist. If it was just a football field, I think I would prefer to play on grass. It's that natural feel. And
I agree.
Not that turf is wrong, but I look as a coach and teacher at Mount Anthony. We currently have an equity issue. We can only get about 20 events. We can only get about 20 events on that field. As you guys know, there's times where we can't have the storm up there. We've had to say for years, we can't just the best grass fields. So between the last vote and the vote that we're doing next week, we have a great community resource in Peter Janellis. Dr. Janellis, those of you that know from Mount Anthony Vet, has always taken care of the baseball fields. He was made aware of the situation from the previous vote, and he started to help out with the football field. He dug up the field to help with the drainage, committed a lot of his own resources. We spent over, or it was like $72,000 just last year, where we had put down some new sod, and it was great at the beginning of the year. And after the John James tournament, the Lady Patriots tournament, and a football game within a 2-week period, unfortunately, the field was just not, it was a very rough shape. And our last game of the year really put a burden on the field, and where the girls soccer playoff game wasn't almost played at Spinelli. So really turned into an equity issue because none of our spring sports get to play up there. And when we think about our student athletes, they should all have the ability to play
100%.
on the big field up there. And that's our goal, is to increase the usage of that facility for the entire community, not just our fall sports. And you guys might be familiar. I know, Adam, you are, but Mike Norman, the athletic director and football coach at Rutland, they were the first high school turf field in Vermont. They've had 15 years on that field, and they're replacing it this summer. And he came to one of our public meetings and said, when you get this project approved, within the first year, you're going to say, I can't believe we did this. We didn't do this sooner. And he said the spring sports do get the most benefit from this, because just yesterday it was 60 degrees and sunny.
Yeah.
They could have held they could have had baseball instead of having an open gym in the gym. They could have been up there taking grounders and doing some batting practice outside. And that really is our goal. I think of our students and what they want. This is, I know, as a teacher and a coach, the kids tell me all the time what they want. And talking with even kids in the band about being able to practice their marching formations all year, not just
not a doubt.
Not one. There's so, I could go on and on. So
and one thing,
the benefits and the possible uses, and that's what that's our goal.
Well, one of the things that I know that's been talked about is, obviously as a coach and doing the athletics, but then there's also the other part of it where I don't believe it can be used right now and for phys ed classes. And so, we've got our phys ed teachers can't be out there to use it for anything. This would allow our students to use it, not just our athletes, where, people think immediately it's just our football players or our soccer players or lacrosse or whatever. That, it can be used for the academic purpose as well, in terms of, that kind of thing. So I think that's a part I don't think people have kind of realized when we talk about this, that it's not just for the athletes, it's for the students, it's for the community, for everybody else. Talk about getting that message, trying to get that message out to the public as best you can.
Well, anyone that we had the informational hearing, the MAU board ran last night, the legal requirements for the bond, and Scott Legacy made some great points as a former PE teacher and now coach, and up at Castleton State University, now it is Vermont State University at Castleton. And he says he teaches a class, and he takes, his classes out there, and he takes the wrestlers out there, and they just resurfaced their turf field this past summer. And he sees all the activities and the different clubs and sports that use the turf there. And it really is, like I said, you said it became a focal point at BBA, talking with people there. It's not just the athletes. Some English teachers will go out and do some outside reading, and they do a lot of activities other than sports. And it really becomes almost like a focal point for their schools.
Another big one is, they do events like Relay for Life at Spinelli Field, and a lot of the other places. I'm not sure about Rutland or some of these other ones, but they have the track, and having this project include the track, which I know is in very rough shape right now.
Yes, it is.
Talk about that part of it in terms of a community use. We talk about it athletes, we talk about it like school wise, but talk about it as a community using that field. And
Yeah, the track is anyone that can see in the northern. I mean, there's some photos that are online, but just go up and walk it right now, especially with it raining tonight, and you'll see. You don't see it driving by when it's nice and sunny. Everything looks like nice blacktop, but as you're walking, there are sinkholes that are forming on the north turn, or excuse me, the southern turn of the track field. So as you're approaching County Street there, and if you didn't know those dips are there and you're running, and I'm worried that someone's going to get hurt. And I know for every track meet, Coach Redding has to meet with the opposing coaches and athletes and say, hey, in this lane, you have to watch for these holes here. And the long jump running lane for the long jump is deteriorating. There's some sinkholes that are now forming on the north end. And Tony D'Onofrio has done his due diligence to try to get it at least patched. And these companies that do these tracks, it's not cost effective for them to come in and just do a little section. And that little section that would be like the equivalent of like 2 parking spaces was going to be $56,000. And that's not financially responsible to do a patch that might last 2 years. Band-aids aren't, we're trying to be fiscally responsible, because this project, I know it's $3 million. And if $3 million is coming out of my pocket, that's a lot of money. And if it was coming out of my pocket tomorrow, that's if we were putting $3 million into the budget, that wouldn't, for 1 year, that wouldn't be cost effective. But by doing it through a bond, that gives us the ability to spread it out over a 10-year period. I look at it like buying a furnace for your house or putting a new roof on your house. If you can spread the payments out, it's going to be expensive at first, but it's going to make it, it's almost going to pay for itself at the end. So that payback, that the quote that we had on a possible payback on current interest rates, if interest rates drop, I don't have a crystal ball, but if those interest rates drop, that payback's going to drop. But it would be about a $350,000 payback over a 10-year period. And, hopefully, most companies, guarantee the fields for 8. So if something were to happen, a tear, a rip, need repair, they come in and repair it. After that 8-year period, any of those repairs would have to come out of our maintenance budget. But Rutland, they took very good care of their field. They never really plowed it. If they ever had to clear it, they might have just used shovels, or they just didn't use it when it snowed. But most schools are getting it with the new technology, are getting 10, 12, 15 years out of their turf fields. So if we could have a 5-year period where we don't have any payments on that field, and now that's great. I want to still be, financially responsible. Once we pay that bond back after 10 years, we can take that $350,000. My recommendation to the board, if they were to, at that point, if I'm still around in 10 years, say, hey, take that $350,000 and let's put that into a reserve account. And then year 11, let's put another $350 into the reserve account. So keep making your payments, but put it in reserve. And then after 3 years, we'll have $1 million in that reserve account. Talking with Rutland, they're redoing their field this year. And by redoing their field, there's a lot of programs now. There's a recycling program where they recycle your material, they clean it up, and they turn it into the pressure treated plastic boards like Trex, and they can build decks out of it. Or they can reuse it. Where they actually there's a new technology where they're putting turf over the old turf, and it's creating a more padded field and a natural crown. Yeah, it really is. And it's so they're not just taking this stuff and throwing it in the garbage. That's bad. They did that 25 years ago.
I was going to say that.
As we learn and advance, that's not good for the environment. And we want to make sure we're doing things that are good for the environment. And I know by being able to reuse or recycle this, that's going to help. And so again, talking with Mike, $700,000 for them to replace their new turf field. So if we had, again, year 13, we have $1 million in reserve, we can use that now to replace the turf field, and we could be on our second turf field here in 15 years and have it completely paid off and have no expense. So I know I'm not rambling, but I know the financials are what got me excited for this, because on the committee, we looked at grass and what would it cost to have a effective grass field. And what we saw, the cost for an effective grass field would be almost equivalent to what we would currently pay on a bond payment, because we're currently expending about $72,000 on the upkeep of the field. That includes paint. We pay $11,000 a year in paint just for football and soccer, and mowing of the grass. And
that's legitimate. Yeah.
And that number is actually low because only about 50,000 of that is what Peter Janalis has charged or billed the school district.
Mm-hmm.
If this was an action for his actual hours and his equipment, if there's going to be a time where Peter can no longer wants to,
Right.
He enjoys doing it, but at some
Yeah.
point he's going to have to stop. We would have to hire a professional landscaping crew, and when we looked at those costs, I'm trying to be financially responsible. I live here, I pay taxes in this district, and by looking at being responsible, this was the most fiscally responsible way of doing it. And the biggest thing is it increases the usage of that facility tenfold. Like I said, we have about 20 events right now. A year. We could project 20 events a week if we wanted, if you started including practices and community partners and our youth programs and middle school programs. If the field's available, we can schedule someone to be there, we'll use it. And that's the total cost. Now we can bring some of those costs down, but I don't want to, make numbers up. Like I said, I don't have a crystal ball. I'm trying to be very transparent with everyone that's asked questions. But if we, if we want community partners to use that, I know currently South Burlington High School on their turf field, they charge $149 an hour for camps that want to rent their field. Talking with the Reddings who own Vermont All-Star football camps, that's what they pay when they use it up there. And I look at the revenue that we could possibly bring in, which would offset the costs of those bonds. I look at some of the maintenance costs that would disappear. We don't have to water a turf field. I think about being conservative for the environment. We're not wasting water anymore.
It's huge. It's huge.
Yeah. The new lights would reduce energy consumption by probably 80%, and just what that would impact on the electric bill. So those are the things I think people that I don't want to say they're not listening. But I understand fixed budgets. I've got my 90-year-old grandmother lives here in town, and I understand having Social Security and fixed budgets. And when your expenses grow faster than your income, you start to worry. But she realizes the benefits, and I know she's supported this, and I appreciate that she supported it, and she knows that. She wants to think big and knows that we can do big things and that'll help our community and
help big time. Because just from an operational standpoint, it's like, we experience, we live a similar life. Like we have to paint Lower Willow, and we have to do everything, and just the ease of everything, including manpower, including paying, the custodial staff just to get it ready. Like it's essentially turnkey now. It's just show up and you play, and that goes for everybody. It's not one exclusive sport. The question that I do have for you is, if you were to run into somebody on the street and they would, they're thinking about, voting no, like what would your message to them be? Like what do you think they need to hear more than anything?
Well, I would ask them why. That's my first question, because why do you think no? And I want to hear what they have to say.
Sure.
That's what I love about Vermont. It's in Bennington. It's a small enough community where I can disagree with my neighbors in a civil way and have these conversations and still go have a beer with them after. I love our community, so I would ask them why, and I would try to show them from my point of view. I've had some former students reach out and hey, what about the NFL? They don't want turf fields and the injuries that their athletes see. And I agree. If I had the NFL's budget, again, they spent $800,000 on just the Super Bowl for grass for one game. And It took them, I think, 24 months to grow. And that would be great if we could have grass just for one game. But we can't have that. And you think about the NFL professional athletes talking with Michael Plaisance came and spoke. There was a doctor that spoke at the first one. Those that don't know Mike, former Mount Anthony athlete and now athletic trainer over in the Capital District area. He talked about having to check the field and the conditions of the field, and for the high school level, the ability of high school athletes, the safest and most reliable playing surfaces are turf, because the dips, the bumps,
consistent.
Those patch areas are where injuries occur, and unfortunately, we've seen our number of injuries on Spinelli Field, and I don't see those increasing by switching to turf. So again, to answer your original question, I'd want to know why, and I would just try to provide people with data that we received and what we found as a committee. And you're not going to convince everyone, and I understand that. Like I said, I respect their thoughts and opinions. I do get frustrated when misinformation is put out there.
Yeah.
But again, the internet's full of a lot of information that might be true and might not be true.
Right. Now that you say that, I got one last question, Adam. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
This goes back to probably 10, 15 minutes ago. When you guys did the survey and it came back 75% turf, 25% grass, of the 25% grass, was it more of a safety concern or a misunderstanding of the product itself? Or was it more
So the question didn't ask about grass. It asked about, it was one of those Likert scales. So do you strongly agree, neutral,
okay. Yep.
disagree, strongly disagree? So between the strongly agree and agree, it was about 75%. And then I think there was another 12. I don't have the data in front of me, so I apologize.
That's okay.
It was posted on our Zoom meeting last night and the one from February 8th if people want to go see it.
Okay.
But it didn't ask about grass, and there really wasn't reasons why there wasn't an ability to
I understand.
answer.
I got you. Yep.
Yeah.
Makes
So
sense.
it was a quick online survey. We had about 1,000 respondents, if I remember correctly. It might have been like 900, but it was on just under 1,000.
Okay.
I wanted to go back real quick too, just to get all three parts of the project. We talked about obviously the field, we talked about the track, but I also wanted to talk about the lights, and one of the big things for that is the fact that we could then have small ball sports on Spinelli Field. Right now, as has been since the program started back in the late 90s, lacrosse is played at the Vet Zone Field, and during the day, because they have obviously no lights, this would allow those nighttime activities as well. So I just wanted to, just say about that little part as well, just to get all three parts there.
Yeah, no, that's exactly, you're absolutely right. Years ago when Tim Brown was the athletic director, there was a group of community members that wanted lacrosse up there. They had the lights tested, and unfortunately they did not qualify for enough lumens to have small ball sports on that field. So field hockey and at the time, and lacrosse could not play up there. So this would allow that. Again, I've already mentioned the energy efficiency. It would replace the telephone poles, the wood that are leaning, and the lights. We've had issues with the lights overheating and bulbs popping. So more, newer lights, and getting our lacrosse athletes up there is big. And it's both male and female sports. I know both teams. That's about 40 athletes on both teams. I look at the youth programs with the Mala. Thank you. I was going to say Maya, but Mala, Mount Anthony Lacrosse Youth Lacrosse Association. They I think of the tournaments. I know there's a very popular like multiple U16, U14 tournament up in Middlebury that draws a number of teams. So I think of the possibilities here in a couple of years where late June, July, we're having we have that would have Spinelli facility. We have the Vets home field across the street. We have the middle school having 3 big fields in that close location, running multiple games at the same time, 2-day tournament, and having the championships for all those youth teams under the lights.
Yeah, that'd be huge.
Oh my! The impact on the impact on the community, the hotels and the rrestaurants, and I think that would be amazing. And another thing, the last couple of, I don't believe it's mandatory. I don't know, familiar with the VPA guidelines for lacrosse, but the state championship games for football, the VPA has 3 requirements: that it has to be turf, it has to have lights, it has to have ample parking in locker rooms. So if we wanted to host a state championship in Bennington, we wouldn't be allowed to.
Yeah.
The last probably 10 or so have been at Rutland High School, and next year it's going to be at the brand new turf facility that they put in at St. Johnsbury. They're going to be hosting it there, and then the following year it's going to rotate to South Burlington. And I'm hoping after Tuesday we can get this project hopefully out the bid here in a couple months, and we can put our name in that hat to host the state championship. And all 3 divisions have the game on one day, 11 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and 5 o'clock. And it's a great, great event up in Rutland every year. And the amount of people that come to that city, and it's phenomenal to watch. And I would love to be able to host that right here in Bennington. We've got the ample parking between our high school and middle school. We have easy access to Route 7, Route 9. I think we're the ideal location
I agree wholeheartedly
to host the state championships. I know that if Burlington, South Burlington's playing in that game, they're not going to want to drive. But next year, I'm going to put it out there. Next year, when we're playing in the Division I state championship, I'm not going to want to drive to St. Johnsbury.
That's right.
But I'll make the trip anyway.
That's right. You got to sacrifice. That's right. Yeah, we were in a similar situation in 2022. We actually had to play a playoff game on turf for the similar reason. Didn't have a good enough feel for that particular time frame. It's disappointing when you got to make changes like that.
We talk about disappointment. I know probably Adam, you were probably at the banner, so you can tell me the year. It was probably 5 or 6 years ago. I think the first time ever a boys high school Vermont lacrosse playoff game was played in Massachusetts.
Yes,
because our fields weren't.
Yes.
They went down to MCLA, right?
Yeah,
and they played on the turf down there because we couldn't host it here. And I remember it might have even been you, Adam, that marked it, that they thought it was in all sports. It's a Vermont high school playoff game hosted out of state. And I know indoor track always used to have stuff at Dartmouth, so that's a little different. But a playoff game out of state and making your home teams travel.
But even this year for soccer, boys played a lot of their games at SVC. Yeah, it's great that we have that facility in Bennington. You know, that even though the college is obviously now gone, but the fact that we have to make those kinds of arrangements when we shouldn't have to is that's rough.
Well, that's going to become temporary too. Like that's not that, to use a phrase we used earlier, that Band-Aid isn't going to stick forever either. You got to start taking care of your own stuff.
That property is I know managed by the town. I think it's still owned by the hospital. But when that property changes hands, I'm hopeful that those fields will remain open to our community, but there's no guarantee.
That's right.
I'm hoping it does. I've heard feedback, and I've been off the Bennington Select Board for a couple of years, so I might return shortly, hopefully, if things go well Tuesday.
I was making a joke about that. I was like, I'm going to mention that he's going for the Select Board, but then I probably have to give equal time and all this. I was like, I'm not dealing with that.
I'll get my own little selfish plug in there.
You go.
Ultimately, I hope that I've heard, again, not in an official capacity, but I have heard that those fields will remain a public, or the public will have access to the fields and trails still. So let's hope that happens.
What kind of, if the public does vote for this bond on Tuesday, what kind of time frame are we looking for in terms of having a project?
Great question. So I know the board will have to put it out to bid, and there's a couple of big companies. Field Turf, AstroTurf are big companies. Field Turf's done a lot of work in Vermont, but whatever, there'll be a request for proposal that people could put out. Then the Mount Anthony board would have to open a bid and accept that. There's been some site work already done. The board did authorize that. Something Mount Anthony owns that, geotechnical stuff, what's under the grass, how deep is it, whatever. So that's something that will help speed up the process. So that was just recently completed, and we can, hopefully go out to bid. Then it's got to go into design phase. I'm kind of excited about the design phase and letting the student body have some hopefully say on that.
That'd be great.
I've kind of thrown that idea out there to some of the board members, and I didn't say this about the ad hoc committee. The makeup of the ad hoc committee is, we had 2 coaches, we had the athletic director, we had 2 board members, and we had 2 parents in the community, and they all put in a ton of time. And I just, I'd like to obviously, we all do this because we care.
Can you name those?
Yeah,
absolutely. Mike Malloy, Mike
Malloy is now. Mike Malloy was originally on as one of the coaches, but is now on as the athletic director. Ashley Hoyt, for the first 2 years, did a ton of work as well.
Yep.
And then she went away from us, but I'll be nice. And then Susan Plaisance was originally on as a parent, and then she got elected to the MAU board, so her role changed, but well, it stayed the same, but her title changed. Chayla Sikora came on as a parent, and as also now as a MAU board member, but she's still representing the parent side of it. Dave Fredrickson, former teacher and coach, now Mount Anthony board member, is on as a board representative. When Mike Malloy became the athletic director, Paul Redding, our track coach, came on as a coach representative. And then Lori Groton came on as a parent representative, and she's also the president of our booster club. So a ton of man hours and effort went into research and putting this together. So all of them did a tremendous work. I don't think I forgot anybody, and if I did, I apologize. But
yeah, I wanted to make sure those names got out there because
they need to get recognized.
You're kind of the public face. You've been kind of the public face of it, and obviously you've got a lot of people working with you or one of the public faces.
You think you'd get a better looking public face for it, but
no. You get it, right?
Yeah. To get back to the timeline, though, if I mentioned to those board members about letting the students decide, hey, what logo we have, the main we call the Megatron logo. Most sports are using that now, but is it going to be the M and the A like baseball uses, or there's the other M that we have? So there could be a design contest for the center logo. What logos go in the end zone? I would joke that I would like the competitive advantage of blue turf, but I don't think we'll go there. I think we'll stick with the natural green if we can.
Don't go black like
Man.
No,
I think
looks beautiful, but boy, it's gonna be hot.
I think natural green is probably the best, obviously. But I think if this Mount Anthony board will make those decisions when it comes to design, and I think student feedback will be talked about. I think does the track have to be black? Can it be red? Can it be blue? Who knows? So that's that process. But I'm hoping as things go, we can probably put shovels in the ground this time next year. Once the ground thaws and they can get going, they can bring all the trucks in and do the work. And again, that's why we talked about doing our research, because the question has come up. Why don't we piece this project out? Other schools have tried that, like Brattleboro put in a new track and they put in new lights, and they've struggled to get approval for the turf. Why not piece it out? Why not piece it out? And we looked at that, and it added about a 30% cost to because the same company that does this, they've partnered to get all these same people to do the work. So the people that do the lights also do the track. They also do the fields, and you'd have to bring the same crews back 3 times.
And set up 3 times. Right.
Exactly. And then they said, hey, if you do the track first, you really want trucks 2-4 years later driving over that nice new track, so we'd have to build some kind of bridge or pathway over that track that you just put in. We said, again, keeping finances in that thought process, that by partnering everything together, by doing this as one project, is the most fiscally responsible way to do it.
The one thing that you said that kind of reminded me to mention this is, like, you're talking about student involvement, and something as very simple as deciding what color the track is. That's the kind of stuff that this area desperately needs. It needs something to be proud of. Someone needs to be empowered to be involved with something great. And this is something that I think this project would allow that to happen. It's just time. I hope people support it. I agree. I think it's time. I just really do.
Yeah. I saw, I've never, been on this, but I saw someone comment, the kids deserve this. And we had a teacher, she probably won't mind me giving her a shout out. But our Allison Brigham said, she's our community-based learning coordinator. She does she's one of the coaches for the unified basketball, and she does Interact Club, Student Senate. And, she said, these kids every year volunteer in excess of 1,000 hours to this this school community. And, these kids, they do a lot, and they love this community, and, they give a lot of their free time to this community. And it's, I think the kids deserve this. Let's give the kids something they want. Let's do something great for these kids, have a legacy, and let's do something that makes these kids proud. And when they're in their 20s and 30s, they're going to want to come back here with their families, because they have pride in the school and pride in that facility. And people want to move here and they look at the curb appeal and say, wow, what a beautiful facility. I want to put a house there.
It's big. It's real big. Like, I mean, I don't want to get, I guess, to get into the weeds, but like, we'll never know how many opportunities have been missed over the last, however many years it's been since the idea of this happening started. Like, it's unmeasurable amount of opportunities that have gone. Like, I tell one quick story here, quick, I guess. Like, going back to 2021, I think, when the Albany Empire came back again. They were looking for a place to practice. I mean, you and I talked about it. They did Lower Willow for a little while, but the reality of it is they want a turf. And, what better opportunity would it be for that to happen? I know that's repetitive history in terms of an Albany team being here, but same thing remains. There was no turf.
Yeah. Well, I believe, what was it, the Albany Firebirds were at SVC, and I remember having friends at the places they were staying, and touchdown Eddie Brown being in Bennington, and I was a player on Mount Anthony then, and got a chance to go into the connections our coaches made with that team, and we were able to get in the locker room and walk across the field there in Albany, and that was as a 16-year-old, wide-eyed and crazy.
Definitely. No, it's still very cool to go on that.
But again, having those athletes, getting a little away from Albany, coming out to the countryside of Bennington and Vermont, and seeing, using the turf facility would be amazing. There's so many. We said it. We can get in the weeds, but the camps. I know several either one-day camps or prospect camps that we could run for football, soccer, lacrosse. It's just we could talk for the next hour for with the opportunities that this would create.
I just want to say that I watched the clip you posted with Scott Legacy, and I thought he was such a great person for that, because he's lived in Bennington, his entire life. His parent, his mom worked for the school district. He taught for and coached for years and years, and just somebody with the skin in the game. Where I think sometimes the people that are so against it, they don't, it's not like they don't have kids in the district, or there's, what I mean? Like, it's all just, oh my God, the taxes on my thing are going to go up by a dollar or whatever the number is. I think that those people that are the most vocal against it don't have skin in the game. Whereas somebody like Scott and yourself, and there's skin in there. It's worth something.
Yeah, I think the benefits, as we've said tonight, and as I've said for the last several weeks, the benefits are immeasurable. And I think there are a lot of people, and again, not just Bennington. This is a Mount Anthony vote, so it's Bennington, Woodford, Shasberry, Pownell, and North Bennington can all vote on this project. And if people choose to use this facility, Scott said that last night too. There are a lot of people that could choose, make that choice to use the track on a Sunday morning, and use the field if they have an organization they want to request to use that field. I put on Facebook a couple weeks ago and got some good feedback about there are some areas of the country they're doing using turf for pickleball, and not knowing much about the sport, I just threw it out there, and it was nice to get educated that it would probably be a pain to have to line that field every time and do that, but I think that's another sport, another conversation about getting some pickleball facilities in town. But we could do I know for PE they would set it up for the day, and I've seen them do stuff out there before, but it always gets wet, and it's kind of hard to use that facility now with PE, and I just think about the opportunities.
But if they made pickleball on there, Polly Vanderlyn would be extremely happy, I'm sure. She's our pickleball princess. I love Polly.
I just got to say this because, you said this a few minutes ago about the telephone poles leaning, for the lights and stuff. And I just, I guess I'll wrap it up with this thought. For me, as somebody that has visited Bennington my entire adult life, as well as actually my whole life, I will be very happy to see those wooden telephone poles gone and actually get a nice picture of the monument from that revamped field, because that will be one of the most beautiful facilities in the entire state once that's done, if it gets done.
Absolutely, yeah. I know the aluminum poles, and there's actually there would be less of them. We wouldn't need the 6 poles. those lights are so old, and
Yeah, they are.
I don't remember the year. It might have been 2005, 2006 when Jim Fisher was the head coach, and
Mhm.
late in the game, trailing against Fairhaven, and the lights went out, and Mount Anthony had the ball, and he was driving, and we were down by less than a touchdown, and I wasn't coaching at the time, and they called the game with they couldn't get the lights back on, and they were paging for Scott Roscoe and other electricians if they were still there to come try to help, and unfortunately
That's
none of
terrible.
they in
Lost
Fairhaven never
14, lost 14-9.
was. I knew it was
14-9.
good memory. I knew it was under 7, so and that became an official game, but there was still 4 minutes left to play, and I know in my gut that they would have come back and beat Fairhaven for that, and that was unfortunate.
So let's wrap it up here. Let's give the big pitch in terms of March 5th voting. Article C on the Mount Anthony School board vote this Tuesday.
Yeah. So again, I just thank you everyone for coming out. That came out. Those of you who have sent me questions or your support, I appreciate it. Again, I know I said it earlier. I'll say it again. We have a great community that we live in. The Bennington area is a great community, and I know not all of my neighbors are going to agree with me. And I just appreciate the civil conversations that I've been able to have the last couple of weeks. And again, you don't see that in when it comes to politics and taxes in this country. And it's great that we don't have what's happening at the national level here locally. So I appreciate those. And I just encourage everyone to get out on March 5th, next Tuesday. Go to your polling places and, support the budgets and support Article C. And, I'm asking personally for that. And I wish voters turn out, and I'll be hanging out at the Bennington polling station as a Bennington resident. I'll be there. Stop by. We can have a conversation. I'll be there most that afternoon once I get out of work, and I'll be more than happy to answer questions right there before you go in to vote if you want.
I'm sure you can find a sub for that day. No.
I haven't taken a sick day in 11 years. I'm not going to start now.
There you go.
Well, we want to thank you for taking the time. I don't know if I
Thank
should
you
call
guys
you
for this.
Chad or Coach. I feel like I should call you both.
I've been called worse, so
yeah. No, it's from a somebody who isn't living there in town. For the organization standpoint, at least from our viewpoint, we're very thankful for there even to be an opportunity for a vote, because we really feel like most that the kids really deserve this opportunity, and it's long overdue in my opinion. That's all it is. It's my opinion. Obviously, the voters of Bennington will make that decision. But I just want to, thank you for all your efforts and all the people that have been trying to, get this thing across the end zone, so to speak, for 4 or 5 years now. So, but thank you. And with that, we will catch everybody soon.
Thanks, guys.
You got it.